Hey everyone, my name is Wes and welcome to Terror Talk, where I review horror stories and reactions to creepy clips online. I'd love for you to share your thoughts also, as I aim to build an avid community of horror fans. I've seen countless horror films and know a little bit about the paranormal as well. I've added a photo of myself to help create a personal connection. After you're done watching, be sure to check the first link below, as it will be extremely valuable for you. Now, let's dive into the review and have some fun. Alright, this is the third story in Horrifying True Ski Trip Horror Stories.
My family owns a property in Vermont that we use in the wintertime for skiing and snowboarding. It's at the top of a hill surrounded by woods. The nearest neighbors are up the road, but separated enough where you can't see their houses from our property. There's a big shed outside that we keep a lot of our snowboarding gear, along with general lawn care stuff like shovels, rakes, and everything like.
I swear, so many creepy things happen with sheds, don't they? I mean, it's like an iconic thing for horror.
Like that. We keep the shed locked whenever we aren't up there. Once we unlock it though, we keep it unlocked for the entirety of our visits, as we don't really worry too much about people coming and stealing anything while we're there. The actual house is pretty nicely sized. It's technically 3 floors, with the 3rd floor being a loft master bedroom, which is reserved for my parents, and my siblings and I aren't allowed to use it. This one weekend, I was heading up there with this girl Melissa, who I was going to be teaching how to snowboard, as she'd never been before. We had a beginner board up there that she used, along with all the proper equipment. On our property, since it's on a steep hill, we actually made our own little custom slope that we'd sometimes snowboard or sled down for fun. So before taking her to the actual mountain, I suggested I teach her the basics on the hill. We put on all of our...
Sort of off topic, but I've only been snowboarding once or twice. It is really hard. Have you ever been snowboarding up in a creepy place? Let me know in the comments below.
Gear, and right up at the top of the hill, I slowly started descending, showing her the basic movements. When she made her first attempt, she right away fell, as expected, but she was persistent and kept trying and getting back up. Each time we made it to the bottom of the hill, she'd get a little better, and then we'd walk back up and do it again. At some point, we both heard a male voice call out from the woods, presumably at us. It said, "Hello." We start looking around, confused as hell. All we saw were a bunch of trees and a white sheet of snow covering the floor of the woods. You'd think it would be easier to spot someone or something.
If you're out in the middle of nowhere like this and you hear that, that would definitely be unsettling, I think, and my guard would definitely be up at that point.
When it's just a sheet of white surrounding you. But nope, we didn't see anyone in the woods. I yelled out, "Is someone there?" Nothing now. Just the dead silence of a secluded place in the winter. Melissa and I were slightly disturbed, so we walked back up to the house and went inside. I didn't think it could be the neighbors because I didn't see the driveway to the one we passed shoveled, and the neighbors further up the hill would have no reason to come down like that. I told her it must have been some random person going for a hike in the woods. That was the least scary possibility.
A random person out, like walking out in the woods like that in the middle of nowhere in a super snowy location like that, yeah, that doesn't seem like it would be a high possibility.
Next thing we did was go out to my favorite nearby diner. Then we went shopping for basic groceries to get us through the next few days. Since it was a bit late now, we were going to spend the rest of the night just chilling at the house. We ate dinner and then chilled by the fire pit out back. At some point, we both heard the distinct sound of shoes stepping in snow not far away. I turned off the music for a second, but with the sound of the crackling fire, it still wasn't dead silence. By this point, whatever we heard stopped. I asked for her phone so I could use both my and her phone's flashlights to point into the woods. Again, like earlier, I called out, "Is someone there?" which scared Melissa. She asked to go inside, so we did. We didn't go back outside that night. The next morning, I woke up to Melissa getting out of bed.
I don't know about you, but if you ever have to ask, "Is someone there?" like, that's pretty creepy in itself, and also really unsettling that you would even have to ask that late at night, because that's never a good sign.
Bed. I was still tired, so I went back to sleep. And when I woke up again, she was still not in the bed anymore. I looked at the time, and it was already like 9 a.m., so I got up and opened the curtain to the window. I looked out at the shed outside. The door was open, and I saw the breath of someone being blown from behind the door to the shed. I wondered what Melissa was doing out there. I opened the window and yelled Melissa's name, but when she called back, her voice came from inside the house, right in.
Don't ask your boss for a raise. Instead, learn these high-income skill sets. You can switch over to his new career. Finally, increase your...
Right in the living room. I got goosebumps. I kept...
I mean, that would give me goosebumps. I would be like, holy shit. Who the hell is out there?
watching the escaping breath of whoever was in our shed blow out the door. I yelled outside, "Yo, who's in my shed?" And a few seconds later, I shut the window and ran out to the living room to find Melissa watching TV. Or rather now, she was more so just standing in front of the couch, concerned. I looked out the back door and saw the back of somebody dressed in black running into the woods. I looked for my boots, but by the time I put them on, it was too late to chase him. I went to check the shed to see if...
You know what? It's probably good that she didn't frickin' chase him, because that would be frickin' stupid. Sorry, you don't chase a random guy out in the middle of the woods, especially if you're not a female. Or, I mean, especially if you are a female.
If anything was stolen, but it seemed everything was there. I relocked the shed just to be safe. I saw the footprints of that person lead from the woods to the shed, then back to the woods again. I wasn't about to follow the footprints, though. After nerves calmed a bit, we ate breakfast, then headed for the mountain, and we had a whole day of snowboarding. Melissa picked it up surprisingly well, and we plan to have one more day at it tomorrow. After we got back to the house, we cooked a steak dinner, then watched a movie. We didn't want to sit out in the dark again after last night and earlier that day. In the middle of that night, I woke up to Melissa shaking me. She explained why. Then she told me to listen. We sat in silence for about 30 seconds before we heard, "Help me," in a very long, drawn-out voice from outside.
That would be terrifying. I'm sorry, but that would just be... Ugh.
Melissa was in hysterics. Then we heard the voice again. I went over to the window, and she begged me not to open the curtain. I said I was just going to take a peek. I gently lifted one corner of the curtain to peek outside. I don't know what I was expecting to see, except for total blackness. I cracked the window open, and a gust of cold air hit me in the face. I listened, intending on getting a better idea of where this voice was coming from, and then I suddenly heard footsteps in the snow, getting much louder very quickly. They were coming toward the window. I quickly pulled it down and relocked it. Whoever it was already saw me, though. The knock on the window confirmed it. I looked over.
I don't think it was super smart of her to open the window at all. And I thought she was just gonna peek through the curtains, so I don't get why she actually opened the window, unless there's something I'm not understanding about that situation. But it's good that she shut it as quickly as she did. Otherwise, he probably would have forced his way in there.
Over at Melissa, who was hiding under the blanket, making faint crying noises. I told her to just stay quiet. Our best response was to not respond or acknowledge them. There was never another tap at the window, nor were there any more calls from outside. It was a long couple hours after that of not sleeping. Eventually, though, we got so tired that we did end up just falling asleep. The next morning, I checked around the house, and there were footprints literally surrounding the house. Someone or multiple people had been circling the house, apparently going from window to window. We decided we'd leave early, because clearly someone was stalking us from the moment we got there. I locked everything back away in the shed. Then we packed the car, and back to Rhode Island we went. For those curious, nothing was broken into or stolen the next time any of us went back up there. So truthfully, I don't even really have a guess as to what that person out there wanted, but it was most definitely the same person stalking the house from the moment we got there. It might have been multiple people, and when you're up in an isolated place like that, realizing you're not alone is the scariest thing imaginable.
And I agree with that last statement, because it really is truly horrifying when you go up in a remote location and someone is stalking you. That is, no, really not a good situation to be in. And I think that it would be good if when you or anyone else, or even me for that matter, goes up to a remote location to make sure all the windows and the doors are locked in the house, because if someone is out there trying to stalk you, then it's just better to be safe than sorry. So overall, I thought this was a pretty creepy video and a good story, and I hope you enjoyed my commentary. Alright, I'll see you in the next one.